Hi everybody. Welcome to this week's Queer and Trans Yoga. I've decided to do I don't know how many weeks, every few weeks to do a short. So the request was made to Jessie to have some practices that are a little bit less than an hour because some people's lives do not necessarily allow them to take an hour out of the day to practice. So this week, and I'll do it again a few weeks from now, I'm going to do about a 20-minute practice. I'm Milo, by the way. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, or he, him, his. And yeah, I'm happy to be doing this. So we are going to start seated. Have something that you can use for height nearby. So if that's a folded up blanket or towel, if you have a block, that's what I'm using. You can sit on a block and across one leg in front of the other. You're going to find both sitting bones evenly on whatever you're sitting down on. You're going to rest your palms on something. So if they comfortably rest on your legs, you can do that. It's more comfortable to bring them to the floor. If you want to put other blocks alongside you, you can do that as well. You're just going to take 3 grounding breaths here. So you're going to inhale up through the crown of the head. Exhale out, let the shoulders come away from the ears. Inhale, length up through the crown of the head. Exhale out through the nose or mouth, shoulders come away from the ears. One more time. Inhale, lengthen from the sitting bones up, make some space between the vertebrae, stretch out through the crown of the head. Exhale, keep the length, let the shoulders come down away from the ears. And then you can gently close the lips, start to bring the breath in and out through the nose if you haven't already. And keep taking these soft breaths into the low belly. They don't have to be extra deep. And try to keep the abdomen and the pelvis as soft as you can. So that doesn't mean not engaged, but not clenched. If you feel some tenseness there, just breathing into that a little bit. On your next inhale, you're going to bring the fingertips up and towards overhead. Try to leave the shoulders down away from the ears. On your exhale, you're going to bring your right hand down towards your mat. Left hand is going to stretch up towards the ceiling. So start to get as much length into the left side body as you can. You're going to roll your left shoulder back a little bit. Try to plug the shoulder blade in. Really sit down into the left sitting bone. Reach up and then reach over. See if you can make this side body stretch come as much from your ribs and your outer hip as it is from, say, your shoulder or your arm. Keep rolling the shoulder back. Look up a little bit if that's comfortable. Exhale back through center. Left hand comes down, right hand reaches up. Really sit down into the right sitting bone and then lengthen up and over. Again, trying to make some space down here between like your sitting bone and the top of your hip. And then again from the bottom of the rib cage to the top of the rib cage. Roll your shoulder back. Look up if you want to. Exhale, release back to center. Start to walk the hands forward. Come off any props that you're on, and you're going to come right up and back to downward facing dog. So because this is a slightly shorter practice, I'm going to get right into some movement. Remember, you can always take these in a way that fits your body. If coming straight into downward facing dog doesn't work for you, you can be on hands and knees. If you're up in your downward facing, you're going to start to pedal the feet a little bit. Get into the backs of the legs. And then you can start to bring your hips a little bit side to side. So we're really gonna focus on the hips and the pelvis for this 20 minutes. The hips and pelvis being a region in many people where we hold a lot of stuff that might be related to our gender and sexual and romantic identities. So for queer and trans folks, can be a place where you might want to send some extra love, some extra attention. On an inhale, bring the heels up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, bring the heels over towards the left and press your right hip up. Inhale the heels back to center. Exhale over towards the right. Press the left hip up. Inhale back to center. You're going to look forward towards your hands. You're going to start to take little steps forward. You use them to stretch into the backs of the legs, but you can also bring the hips a little bit side to side. So as you put your right foot down, you can send your right hip towards the right. You bring your left foot down, send the left hip towards the left. You're using this as a moving, warming stretch for the hips in addition to the backs of the legs. Meet up at the front edge of the mat in a forward fold. Widen the feet as much as you need to and bend into the knees as much as you need to get a long low back. Shake out the head and the neck, sigh out through the mouth. Swap the hands around towards the outside of the right foot. You're going to press down into the left fingertips and then send the left hip to the left. Breathe into the left hip and left side body. Exhale back through center. Come towards, maybe around the outside of the left foot. Press into the right fingertips. Send the right hip more to the right. Breathing deeply into whatever part of the side body or hips feels like it's holding on to the most stuff. Exhale back through center. On an inhale, come to halfway lift. Really press the feet wide side to side, widen the sitting bones, lengthen out through the crown of the head. Exhale, fold forward. On an inhale, press into the feet, come up to stand, stretch the fingertips. On an exhale, you're going to bring your right foot back around behind your left foot and off the mat. And then you're going to reach your right hand up. Move back here a little bit so you can see this better. Right hand up, grab the right hand with the left, and then lean over towards the left. So it'll look like this from the front if I'm mirroring you. You're going to exhale, come back to center, and then go the other direction. Bring the left foot around behind the right. Left fingertips go up, reach up with the right hand, lengthen the left side body, and then lean over towards the right. Exhale back to center. On an inhale, reach the fingertips up. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step back to downward facing dog. On an inhale, come forward to plank pose. You can have your knees up, or you can have them down on the mat. And on an exhale, you'll bend the elbows back behind, slowly lower the whole body, draw your belly button up towards your backbone. Really try to use the shoulder blades on the back to hold you. Flip the toes, roll the shoulders up and back on an inhale. And then on an exhale, tuck the toes, draw the belly button towards the backbone, come to hands and knees. And then keep pressing up and back to downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths here. You can just stay still in your down dog, or you can move around, dropping the heels or pedaling the heels. Whatever feels like it's helping you get into the hips and the backs of the legs. So hips are often carry a lot. There's like many layers of history and holding for our hips. They help us to sit if we sit. They help us to stand if we stand. On an inhale, look forward, start to walk the feet up to the hands again. A lot of tenseness, which happens when we feel scared or even traumatized, can be felt and often isn't always released from the hips. So oftentimes in a hip practice, it's going to take, you want to take an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half to slowly get in. But we don't always have that in our lives, right? Particularly if we've had a lot of stress and trauma. Meet up the front edge of the mat, wide feet. On an inhale, come to halfway. On an exhale, fold. Inhale, root into the feet, come up to stand, stretch the fingertips. Again, you're going to take the side body stretch, so you'll take your right foot, bring it around behind, stretch up through the left hand, come up and over. Exhale, back to center, come the other direction, right foot goes behind, right hand stretches up and over. Exhale, back to center. Inhale, reach the fingertips up, and exhale, bend through heart center to forward fold. On an inhale, come to halfway. On an exhale, plant the hands, step back to downward facing. Keep moving, one breath, one movement through your vinyasa as you inhale to come forward, knees up or down. Exhale to lower, belly button to backbone. Inhale, roll the shoulders up and back for your back bend. And then exhale, tuck the toes, belly button to backbone, either come through hands and knees or chaturanga to plank to downward facing dog, 3 deep breaths. So when you don't have the access to a long enough time to go deeply slowly, the answer isn't really to go deeply quickly, but to find ways that you can kind of return and unpack a little bit, right? You can come back and get a little opening that's not pushing it too much here and there. On an inhale, bring the right heel up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, right knee comes up and in towards the chest. Plant the right foot at the right hand. If it doesn't make it all the way up, scooch it so you've got a long stance front to back. And then inhale up into your crescent lunge here. Squeeze the feet towards each other. Bend as much as you need to in the back knee so you can get a long, low spine. You're going to bring your right palm down to your right thigh. Reach the left hand up. And then over towards the right, you're going to get a little bit more into the hip flexor here. Don't overstretch. When you feel like you've got some good feeling here, go ahead and just breathe into it. So again, this isn't like going real fast into deep hips. It's hip stretches that are done with some movement to build heat, and things that aren't like, going straight into like pigeon pose without warming up. There's a little bit more engagement and protection and warmth. On an exhale, you're going to bring your left hand down to your mat. You're going to come onto the outer edge of your back foot. So your left foot is back. You're going to come onto the outer edge, and you're going to heel toe your front foot so it's right in front of your hips. Press down into the left hand, lift the right, and then you're going to press down into your right foot and lift your hips up towards the ceiling. So again, only as far as you have to go to get some stretch into the right outer hip. Then exhale, you're going to start to drop your bottom hip, so your left hip, slowly, don't even drop, just slowly move it down towards your mat. You might want to bring your hand a little bit further forward because the weight will shift. And then you're just going to move the hip down until it gets to a place where you're getting a stretch for the left outer hip. If you are very flexible in the hip might come all the way down. If you're like me, you'll have to hover it a little. Exhale, press back up, bring the right hand down, and back onto the toes of the left foot. Step the right foot back to downward facing, and take whatever you want here for vinyasa. Come forward to plank and lower and do a back bend. You could take a child's pose, walk it out more in downward facing dog. And you get back to downward facing dog. You're going to inhale the left heel up. Exhale, bring the left knee up and in, squeeze it in, left foot to left hand, squeeze the feet together, and inhale to crescent. And you're going to squeeze the feet together, bend as much as you need to into the back knee, so your low back can stay nice and long. On an exhale, left hand comes to the left thigh, right fingertips come up and over a little bit to the left. Again, not going any further than you need to get some stretch into the right hip flexor. Just breathe into it here. Keep squeezing the feet. So again, you're not overstretching, right? Like, deepness is a really relative concept in a lot of ways in terms of like releasing tension in the body. It's always a layered process, and so kind of slowly building to something like pigeon can be a way of getting, like unpacking some of those layers. On an exhale, bring the right hand down, come onto the outer edge of the right foot, heel to the left foot over. Press down into the left foot and lift the left hip, and then your left hand can come up. It's also, there's a layering that happens when you do attend to something and be very present a little bit here, and then come back and attend again, and come back and attend again, right? There's a different sort of unpacking that can happen in maybe these shorter bursts that gives you a different way of understanding, right? It's not that one's deep and one's shallow. On an exhale, I like to bring my top hand down for this just because it takes a lot of concentration. Start to drop your bottom hip down. Again, you might want to either heel toe your foot back or bring your hand forward, because it shifts, for me it shifts the weight so that my bottom shoulder goes forward, and you want the shoulder that's supporting you to be over your wrist or like just your side of the wrist. Take some deep breaths into the right outer hip. And then exhale, we're going to press the hips back up, come onto the toes of the back foot, bring the left hand down, and then step back to downward facing. Take what you want for vinyasa here. And then from downward facing dog, look up towards the hands. You're going to take that walk again, feet to hands. Really let the hips go as far side to side as is comfortable for you. And then when you get to your hands, you're just going to keep on walking and slowly bring your seat down to the mat. And we're going to come to Navasana for a few breaths. So again, this heat building attentiveness to help kind of get into some of what's happening in the hips and the pelvis. So you're going to draw your belly button towards your backbone. You can have hands and feet down here, and just draw belly button to backbone and lengthen the spine. You can keep the hands down either on your fingertips or your palms and lift your legs. Keep drawing belly button to backbone. You can have your legs lifted and then also bring the arms out. So it's really up to you. You can straighten the legs as much as is comfortable. If you're getting a lot of it in the hip flexors, which is like the top front of your thigh, then you might want to either put the feet down or bend the knees more. You want it to be as much in your belly and like pelvis area as possible and not so much in the legs. Lengthening out through the crown of the head. Take a few breaths. Letting some of that heat come down into those layers of the belly and the pelvis. Just letting some of the stuff that's down there get attention in the form of like warmth and engagement. On an exhale, you're going to slowly lower down whatever you had up. Take an inhale here, lengthen the spine. On an exhale, you're going to cross your right ankle over your left knee. Flex in the right foot and draw your pinky toe back towards your right outer knee. Then you're going to walk your hands in as much as you need to so that when you lengthen the spine, you get some stretch into the right outer hip. And gently rock a little side to side. Uncross the right foot, cross the left. You might want to walk the hands in or out here. Flex in the left foot, pinky toe goes back. Rock the hips slowly, side to side. And just noticing, knowing that you can come back to this 20-minute practice, well, whenever you can. That's really not something I have a lot of control over. And that you might notice something else, or the layering of coming back will be as much uncovering as if, you did an hour and a half straight together. Exhale, bring the foot down. You're going to slowly walk yourself back. Let the head come down. You're going to bring your feet together and knees apart. You can bring some pillows outside your hips or blocks if you have them, or you can just take your hands. Use your hands to support your outer thighs. We're just going to take a couple breaths here, not like a full shavasana, but enough to settle. Breathe into the inner thighs. Consciously send your hip and pelvic area just a little love, appreciation, whatever you can do that feels accessible and okay for you. On an exhale, use the hands to bring the knees up and in. Draw the knees towards the chest. You're going to roll to your side and then gently press yourself back up to a comfortable seated position. Inhale, bring the fingertips up. Exhale, palms come together at heart center. Take a deep breath into the low belly, the pelvis, the hips. Exhale, sigh out through the mouth. Let your chin come towards your chest. Have a wonderful week. Please take care. And thank you. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.